who are not yet in and shift the room around a little, so just warning you up front. The first bill is of particular importance to our quest to lift up all New Yorkers, and it's a milestone for equal opportunity in this city. Today, we ban the box in New York City. Intro 318A, otherwise known as the Fair Chance Act, strengthens provisions of our city's human rights law that prohibit discrimination based on a person's arrest or criminal conviction history. Sponsors are Council members Jumaane Williams and Borough President Gail Brewer. The bill opens the door to jobs for New Yorkers who have paid their debt to society rather than condemning them to constant economic struggle. We all know that employment is key to reintegration into society for those who have paid their debt. But until now, employers had the ability to demand applicants' criminal history early in the hiring process, and far too often for too many New Yorkers, that obliterated a chance for any job, denying the very opportunity that many people needed to be back on a pathway to success. One low-level offense could cripple someone's ability to support a family and perpetuated so much of the inequality we face every day. We want to end that with this legislation, level the playing field, give people a chance to move forward again with their lives and make their lives work. And because this bill prohibits most employers from inquiring about anyone's criminal record until after making a conditional offer of employment, it allows the abilities of the job applicant to shine through. My administration is committed to breaking down barriers and opening doors of opportunity for all New Yorkers. I want to thank so many people who did great work on this. I want to thank Speaker Melissa Mark Viverito, and I will now call up some of the other people we have to thank, starting with my counsel, Maya Wiley.
In an administration in which there are many, many, many days of celebration of victories for all New Yorkers, it is my great pleasure both to thank my homie, Jumaane Williams, who I claim as my council member because he's my neighbor, for his leadership on this, as well as the mayor who committed to this from day one on the campaign trail. We know that at least as of 2010, 7.7 million Americans had criminal records, and that all too often people who were qualified, committed, and who served their time were unable to get a fair shot at jobs they could reasonably do. And unfortunately, in this city, that is way too often folks who are black and brown. In fact, this is a win-win for everyone, because we know that not only if just 100 people with felony records are able to work, that's $55 million in earnings in their lifetime, $55 million. And it's almost $2 million in taxes paid in income taxes, which means more revenue for the kinds of programs that all New Yorkers need so that we continue to be one city rising together. Today, moving forward, it's on.
It was a very long bumper sticker, but I liked it. Next, I want to invite up the chair of the Human Rights Commission, Carmelyn Malalas.
Thank you, Mayor. I know that there were many hands in bringing us here today, and first I want to thank so much the Speaker and the Council, particularly to Council Member Jumaane Williams and Borough President Gail Brewer. Also, many thanks to the advocates. I know a lot of you are here today, and I'm so happy to see you here. Your tireless work really drove this legislation forward. And of course, to this administration for creating an environment of justice where people from the advocacy community, like myself, really want to work. Folks like Maya, John Paul, Brittany Saunders, Saba Debasu, Martha Alfaro, Shruti Raju, Dana Sussman, thank you all for your work on this very important piece of legislation. With the Fair Chance Act, the New York City human rights law continues its tradition of being the strongest civil rights law in the nation. The City Commission on Human Rights looks forward to bringing this new legislation into force and eliminating the barriers to employment for our community members with past arrests or convictions. The Fair Chance Act makes real the promises of our existing criminal record discrimination provisions and helps ensure that all New Yorkers will have access to jobs. Before today, the city human rights law required employers to do a careful analysis of the relationship between a person's conviction record and the job, considering all evidence of rehabilitation. The time has passed since that conviction, the seriousness of the offense, and other factors. And this was not enough. In practice, as soon as job applicants disclosed an arrest or conviction, they were immediately disqualified. Now, with the Fair Chance Act, each job applicant must first be considered fully on their own merit, without regard to and without mention of criminal history. No inquiries or statements about criminal background will be allowed at the outset of most employers' job application processes. Job vacancy ads that mention arrest and conviction history or ads that state that a background check is required are no longer allowed. This removes the chilling effect for people with criminal history as they search for jobs. Most employers must first make a conditional offer, and then, and only then, can a background check be performed. And if after performing the careful analysis required by the law, an employer decides to disqualify an applicant because of his or her record, the employer must provide a written explanation of the analysis and a copy of the criminal record relied on to the job applicant. The Commission is charged with enforcing this law and educating the community about how to follow it. We are already in the process of arranging meetings with the key stakeholders and community partners behind this bill to plan a community education campaign and develop our strategic enforcement efforts. We will also be meeting with employers groups to provide guidance and tools to help them comply. People who have had contact with the criminal justice system must be able to work, and the City Human Rights Law seeks to guarantee this. With the Fair Chance Act, this guarantee can now become a reality. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now, the bill's lead sponsor, Councilmember Jumaane Williams. Good job.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I want to give a shout out to my mother, who's at her first bill signing, Patricia Williams here. And even though I'm here signing a historic piece of legislation, I know she's going to complain that I do not have a tie and that I'm wearing jeans. I will bet you 100% that'll be the first thing that she says. But I want to thank the mayor and all those who brought us here today. Having a past conviction should not prevent someone from being able to put food on their table or be able to pay rent. And the Fair Chance Act ensures that all New Yorkers, including those who have become stigmatized because of previous convictions, will have an equal opportunity to compete for jobs for which they qualify. I'm so proud to join the mayor and others today to sign the New York City Fair Chance Act and join 17 states and more than 100 cities and counties who have already adopted similar legislation. I'm also prouder that this is one of the strongest bandboxes in the nation. The legislation will not hurt employers. It does not require them to hire any particular applicant. It does, however, delay the time frame in which they can ask it. It is already against the law to discriminate against people who have criminal convictions. But because of the way things were done in New York City, there was no way to prove whether or not that law was being followed. In fact, most of us believed it was not being followed because they asked the questions right at the beginning. Now, we've decided that you should treat everyone like a human being, assess them as a whole person, offer them a job, and then you do the background check at that point. The Fair Chance Act allows people with conviction history to be evaluated on their own merits without compromising safety and security on the job. Under the Act, employers must make a conditional job offer before inquiring into the criminal history of an applicant or conducting any criminal history search. I'm a strong believer that we must remove barriers to success for those who are qualified to work, because not only does employment lower recidivism rate, but banning the box gives employers a broader range of candidates to choose from. I like this bill because it's not just a bill, it is an employment bill, it is a public safety bill, it is a criminal justice bill, all wrapped into one. I think it was 2 days ago, the mayor and I, thanks to him and the parks, put a marker on the slave market down in Wall Street. And I said then that we have to continue to deal with the structures that were left behind for that travesty in history. And I believe that's one of the things that we're doing here today, rearranging some of the structures that are there that make a certain segment of the population and prevent them from being able to grow the way that some other segments of the population grow. And we're doing that in a way that is safe, and we're doing that in a way that is equitable, and we're doing that in a way that we say as a society we should be doing. So I'd like to thank again Mayor de Blasio, Speaker Melissa Margarito, Chair Milley for supporting this bill. I want to thank the borough president, Gail Brewer, who had this bill before me in the city council and was actually a co-sponsor now. I'd like to additionally thank the many staff and advocates who worked on the bill, including on the council side, Matt Gawab, Rob Newman, Rachel Cordero, Committee Counsel Alicia Brown, the committee's former counsel, Julian Beckford. I'd like to thank Salva Debasu, Maya Wiley, Brittany Moore, my staff, Nick Smith, and William Gerlich. Special thanks to Paul O'Keefe. Where's Paul? Let's give him a shout out. From the Community Service Society for helping to draft the bill. The advocates who worked so hard, including Alicia Aguilera over there. Let's give her a shout, please. From Vocal, New York. And all those who helped, people like the borough president, Shula Warren, Hallie Chu. Of course, I want to thank Jean-Paul Lupo as well, who I harassed quite some time to try to get this done. But I'm just proud to be part of this time in city government where we really are attacking some of the structures. Hopefully we can move forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well done. Jimani, I have an important statement to make. Mrs. Williams, don't discriminate against Jimani because he's wearing blue jeans and an open shirt. We're going to introduce legislation that will protect the rights of people like Jimani who dress more informally at such hearings. Yes. Jimani, we love you just the way you are. Next, I'd like to bring forward the sponsor last time around, and she continued her commitment to this throughout. Now, Borough President of Manhattan, Gail Brewer.
You should know that we know when it is council stated day because he wears a suit and tie. That's how we know when there's, we don't look at the calendar, we just look at Jimani.
I can tell.
We love him. So I'm here because there are very few times in your lifetime when you pass legislation that really makes a difference in people's lives. Paid sick days as an example, and I would say Fair Chance Act / Ban the Box is another example. So there are lots of people to thank, but recently at Vocal New York, we had a ceremony in which people were honored, and you'll see some of the honorees over there. And you'll know that if you have a record, it is really hard to get a job. But if you get a job, which this bill will help people to do, you really do have a second chance. The job is the second chance, and that's why this bill is so important. And it's really a pleasure to work with Jimani Williams and Nick Smith from his staff, and all the other council members who were the co-sponsors. Jimani Williams talked about Paul Keefe. What was great about Paul is we would say one thing and he would say no. And we would go back to the no and try to get it to be something that we could all agree on, because he was very much concerned about the people who really are impacted by this legislation. And I want to thank David Jones and all of CSS and Vocal New York and all the coalition, because it is a coalition effort. That's how I first got involved, was working with the coalition. I want to thank all the council members and the people whom Jimani Williams mentioned in the council staff, Alicia Brown, Rachel Cordero, Rob Newman, and Matt Gawald, as well as all the people from the mayor's side. This is really a very special passage, and I want to thank the mayor and his staff. It was much discussion, but there are 5 million people in New York State with arrest or criminal records, and this will make it possible for everyone, in the city of New York anyway, to be considered for employment based on their qualifications. And this gentleman who was mayor before, his name is Mayor Bloomberg, you've heard of him, he did in fact do an executive order that said city employees exempting certain departments that are exempted by the state and the federal legislation would in fact not have to check off the box applying for city government. And the good news, because we don't have to go to the states and the cities around the country that have passed it, here in New York City, those who had criminal records doubled in terms of employment in the city of New York in the last couple of years because of the executive order. No problems, no issues, just good employees. So we know that it works, and we know that a job seeker with a conviction record will no longer be branded as unemployable because of a background check that he or she has had, and because he or she does not have to check that box. So nor will a qualified job candidate be judged by the lowest moment in his or her life. So the act will give people with a criminal record the opportunity to establish a new record, one that will be based on hard work and professionalism, just like everyone else. And if you have a job, and then a background check is done, and you're found to have a record, you won't be fired. All of this is incredibly important for the city of New York. I certainly want to thank, as others have, Shula Warren and Hallie Chu of my staff. It would not have happened without paid sick days, would not have happened without Shula Warren either, Mr. Mayor, and you know that.
Yes, I do.
So we're very pleased to be here today, and I want to thank everybody who participated. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, the chair of the City Council Human Rights Committee, Councilmember Darlene Mealy.
Good evening. This is a great day today. I want to thank our council, our mayor, our speaker, and all the whole city council body. I'm the Civil Rights Committee chair, and on June 10th, we passed the legislation for the Fair Chance Act. And I am pleased to say thank you, Mayor de Blasio, for putting this legislation into law. This is a very important piece of legislation that will prohibit employees from discriminating against applicants based on their criminal history. The goal of 318 is to make sure that people with pending arrest or prior convictions are given a fair chance to gain employment. It is our hope that this law will make obtaining employment in our city more fair by breaking down the barriers against people with arrest records or criminal histories. Finally, with the passing of this bill in the New York City, we can only say it is a long-awaited battle that has been won. We claim victory now. This bill is increasing our human capital pipeline and will ensure that individuals will have the opportunity to compete for good jobs. I would like to thank my colleague, Jamani Williams, and our Manhattan Borough President for her leadership in this. They came to my office and made sure that I hear what they had to say. And I'm glad that I listened to both sides. And when we did have the hearing, one of the employers made it perfectly clear that we need this legislation. And I was not on that bill as of yet. And when that employer said what he said, I said, that's why it is so important that we make sure this bill is passed. So I want to thank both of you for doing your due diligence. I want to thank the advocates, because y'all were not easy. So I commend you. And I just want to thank you, Mayor, for making this happen. Today is a great day for New York City, and thank you.
Okay, we have some members of the public who have signed up to speak. I'm going to call up all four of them and just line up, and each will take their turn. Brian Pearson of Vocal New York, Marilyn Scales of Vocal New York, Jeremy Zielinski of the Workforce Advocacy Center, and Terrence Coffey of the Doe Fund.
Hello, everybody. Hi, my name is Mr. Carl Stubbs. I'm a vocal leader, community leader, and I want to say I am so happy. I've had a felony for over 25 years, and it has kept me from poverty and kept me from getting a good job. I am so happy that today the Fair Chance Act will become law. I deserve a fair chance at a better life, and I am so proud to have worked to pass the Fair Chance. The next generation won't go through what I went through. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank you, Mr. Blasio. I want to thank you, City Councilor. I don't know everybody's name, but I love you. And it doesn't stop here, because my thing is trying to get people in prison jobs before they come home. Thank you, everybody.
I want to take this special moment because I'm really excited today. Today, I see hope for people like me who have struggled to try to maintain their home, pay rent, put food on the table. I just want to share a little bit. I'm a 52-year-old woman who has never had a full-time job because my past has always held me back. And today, I see light at the end of that tunnel. I see that candle flickering at me, you know? And when I first came, about last year in April, I came and they kicked off the Fair Chance Act, and I spoke at the press conference. That was never my intention, you know? But I came, I spoke, and then my life took off. Like, whew, I start crying. I get very emotional when I speak because this is going to affect my life. You know, my kids are so happy today because they actually seeing their mother make a difference and not being judged by her past. And that's one of the most amazing things that has happened in my life in a very long time, besides my children, because I have 6 of them. And it's been hard trying to support them and pay rent every month. I have had a part-time job twice in my life, you know, besides being a teenager. But I look forward to having a full-time job. It's never too late. And I really believe that. And I want to thank City Council who stuck by us and really supported me. Because I mean, I never thought the City Council would come up to me and say, you're doing a good job. Oh, I love the way you speak. I love what you're doing. I never thought that would happen. And today, Mayor de Blasio, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jeremy Zielinski. For far too long, people with criminal histories have, despite making a conscious choice to abstain from that behavior in the future, run into barrier after barrier after barrier. We heard today that there's people here that have never had a full-time job as a result of a few bad choices. That's appalling. And far too often, that's fallen on our young men and women. This is an important bill. It's great. This is going to open opportunities everywhere. New York has long been a leader. New York City is leading again. I want to thank Borough President Gail Brewer, Councilman Jumaane Williams, Mayor de Blasio, and everybody else who worked on this bill, all the advocates, the public, the press, everyone who got this issue out and showed how important this is. This is an amazing day. This is going to make a lot of difference for a lot of people. The camera doesn't capture the emotion in the room, the energy that's here. That's real excitement, real opportunity. So on behalf of ourselves and everybody else, thank you, all of you.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Doe Fund, we would like to thank Mayor de Blasio, Jumaane Williams, and Ms. Brewer. My name is Terrence Coffey. I'm currently a senior at New York University and also a former trainee of the Doe Fund. And we would like to congratulate this administration on the Fair Chance Act that will remove some of the greatest obstacles from those who are suffering to recover from homelessness and incarcerations for thousands of people, such as myself. And with that said, we also ask that our administration, that with this decision today, that we also remember the situation regarding Department of Homeless Services and putting sex offenders into our communities. To address issues with the Doe Fund, to replace 50 men such as myself, desperate to get their lives back together and climb the economic ladder, simply because they're challenged in this area. This program gave me an opportunity to transfer my life and change my life. We have some young men here today from our Young Men program who are also part of that group, and I work with these young men in my internship program. I'm very honored to be here. I'm very honored to be in the presence of everyone here. And, you know, one of the things they say when we have a cause to fight for, I learned this from Mr. Jumaane Williams as I've watched him and I've seen him advocate on behalf of issues of the African American, Latino, and underprivileged communities. We stand here to say again, congratulations, and we so much thanks to this administration, those who helped make this possible, but also to remember the efforts on behalf of the Doe Fund. Thank you.
Thank you. Is everybody ready for this to be law? Yes. All right.
Guys, you have to take your pictures and move, please.
Ready?
Yes. Yeah. Down in front, please.
Power behind the throne. Come forward. Jumaane, look over here. Where's Sheila? First one, only Sheila. Thank you, Sheila. All right, now I gotta get this. Maya and Carmel in. Maya. Thank you. So we're playing out how many you can do here. That's right, I like this experiment with, and he need 29, so it's 2 numbers. It's good, that's all. Are you counting slashes? How many times you can do it? Anyone else need one? Okay, now, ask again. Anyone not get one? Margaret? Okay, you want one for me. Okay, the last one. Okay. Okay, all right. You want one of those? So I'll just do the S and the I. guy. He deserves the O also.
Leave while we bring in the group for the next bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
What's your name?
Agla.
If everybody would please take their seats, we're going to start the next hearing.
Here we go. Okay, if you're not staying for this hearing, please exit the room. Okay. Everybody ready? Almost. John Paul, let's get the door.
Yep.
Okay, we are here to discuss Intro 125B, excuse me, 125B, which requires car washes to be licensed for the first time ever in New York City. The sponsor is Speaker Melissa Mark Viverito. This legislation gives Department of Consumer Affairs another tool to protect consumers. And it's also a step in protecting our environment, especially New York City's water supply. Legislation requires car washes to obtain and renew licenses, complying in the process with local environmental laws and regulations. It must also comply with the surety bond requirement like so many businesses currently licensed by DCA. I want to thank Speaker Melissa Mark-Viverito, and now want to introduce the Commissioner for the Department of Consumer Affairs, Julie Menon.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you very much for your leadership on this bill. And I also, of course, want to thank Speaker Melissa Mark-Viverito, Council Members Miller and Espinal for their leadership as well. So I have to tell you, we are absolutely honored to be the agency to implement the Car Wash Accountability Act, which significantly strengthens protections for workers in the car wash industry throughout the city and also enhances DCA's ability to protect consumers. The law requires approximately 250 car washes in the city to obtain a license from our agency to be able to conduct business. DCA will be evaluating applicants' fitness to operate a business, as we do with many other licensing categories. This evaluation will include an assessment of past judicial actions, particularly related to underpayment or non-payment of wages. This important provision will allow DCA to ensure that car washes are engaged in fair business practices and proper labor practices as well. All of these requirements will ensure that workers in the industry are afforded the protections that they need and deserve, and that consumers will now know to contact DCA with any consumer protection issue. In closing, DCA looks forward to working with all stakeholders, Stu Applebaum, Make the Road, all the advocates who pushed so hard for the bill, the industry, workers, and consumers alike, as we move forward on implementing this important legislation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Also like to welcome to speak Councilmember Carlos Menchaca, 2 times in 1 day. There you go.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to the administration and to our commissioner. On behalf of the speaker and really all the council members, including Councilmember Brad Lander from Brooklyn, I just want to say that this is an incredibly important moment. Labor, RWDSU, who's here, and all the car washeros from across the entire city galvanized an important, for a long time, an important cause. And like the shirts say, con justicia, we are here with justice, and these car wash workers and the elevation of quality of life on so many levels is going to be felt. Today we're making history. Today we're championing a cause that's going to affect so many people. And as a chair of the Immigration Committee, I know our immigrant community is going to be impacted well. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have a number of people signed up for public testimony. I'll call them up 3 at a time. Each one take turns. Patricio Santiago, Stuart Applebaum, and Steve Rotlevy.
Bueno, buenas tardes a todos. Gracias por estar aquí. Pues hoy le doy las gracias a todos mis compañeros que han luchado por esta ley carguachera y que se han dado el valor para hacer posible esta historia que estamos haciendo hoy en este día, hoy en esta tarde. Le damos gracias a todas las organizaciones que nos han ayudado, a todos, el alcalde Blasio, a Melissa, y muchísimas gracias por apoyarnos a todos aquellos que nos han ayudado mucho.
I'm Stuart Applebaum. I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I want to thank the members of the council, especially Carlos Menchaca and Brad Lander, and the speaker, of course, because you're proving over and over again how you can make a difference in the lives of working people in the city, and this is yet another example of how you are doing that. Nothing has inspired me more than the courage of the car wash workers, the car washeros, who have stood up not just for themselves, but for the right of all low-wage working people in this city to be treated with dignity and respect. And this legislation today goes a long way to make that possible. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Mr. Mayor, my name is Steve Oklevy, and I'm a Brooklyn-based car wash owner and the president of the Car Wash Association of Owners. The Association of Car Wash Owners currently represents 90 of approximately 130 car wash in New York City. We've estimated these car wash employ approximately 3,000 individuals. On behalf of the association, we respectfully request that you disapprove City Council Intro 125B. We appeal to your sense of fairness to ensure that honest small businesses are not unduly punished and for the actions of a few, to ensure that the process of government are open and transparent, and that the laws are not hastily enacted to assist politically connected special interest groups at the expense of average small business owners who don't make political donations and are not active in campaigns and elections. We are simply trying to save our business to compete with few bad actors that operate with impunity and survive the climate that has become increasingly hostile to businesses in New York City. Mr. Mayor, many of the owners and employees that were here for all the council proceedings have become disillusioned with the government. They now believe that this is and always have been a fait accompli, that the fix is in. This is why many are not here today. I hope you can prove them wrong. Let's be clear, we wholeheartedly support a licensing and a regulation of the car wash industry. But it must be fair and done concurrently with the strict and widespread enforcement of current city and state laws. The lawbreakers create an unfair competitive playing field, and we simply cannot compete with violators. But the laws are not enforced, and this bill is a lie and a fallacy and does nothing to address the fundamental problems. And compelling small business into a hostile union agreement is not the answer. It is a bad public policy and legally and constitutionally questionable. For the last 3 years, RWDSU, along with Make the Road New York, have been trying to unionize car washes. They have admittedly drafted and has the bill introduced and have been using it as a threat, unionize or else we will pass the bill. Well, they failed to legally unionize the industry, but they're living up to their promise. How does City Council arrive at $150,000 surety bond requirement? This amount would be the highest requirement of any business city law. The City Administration Code does not provide a surety bond for any similar business in excess of $50,000. In fact, the ranges from $550,000 to $50,000, and only the higher bond requirement on the code is $100,000 for process servers. Most of car washes do not have the sophistication, the credit, the financial strength to support a bond of $150,000. Official letters and expert testimony was provided by the surety bond industry to the council. It was clearly shown that the average car wash typically owned one location and would not qualify, let alone able to afford a surety bond in excess of $50,000, including my car wash, by the way. Mr. Mayor, simply said, this bill puts the gun to small businesses' head and says, unionize or else go out of business. Mr. Mayor, this is not extortion. Yes, one second. Then I don't know what it is. This is extortion, pure extortion. Not only will significant percentage of law-abiding small businesses be forced to shut down, but also thousands, mostly hard-to-employ immigrant workers, will lose their job. Many law-abiding car washes will go out of business and turn into exterior wash operation, much like in the 1970s, if you remember, resulting in contracted car wash industry with substantially fewer jobs. We ask you to intercede and help our industry and ask council to reconsider and work with you and us, the industry, to come up with a fair and legal licensing scheme. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, I'd like to call up Jonathan Weston of New York Communities for Change, Deborah Axt of Make the Road New York, and Rabbi Michael Feinberg of the Greater New York Labor Religion Coalition.
Good afternoon. So obviously Jonathan Wesson was unable to be here, but my name is Chio Valerio. I am a deputy director at New York Communities for Change, and I'm just so happy and so relieved that this bill has finally passed and it'll come to signing. Quiero que los carguacheros nos muestren cuántos han sido víctimas del robo de salario. Levante la mano si ha sido una víctima del robo de salario. Almost every single carguachero in this room has been a victim of wage theft, and today we make a historic moment by ending that. No more intimidation, no more threats to the workers, and absolutely no more wage theft. And we applaud you, Mayor. We applaud Carlos Menchaca. Make the road, RWDSU, and especially the carguacheros, because without you guys, this would not have been possible. Thank you so much.
Solo quiero brevemente dar las gracias a todos los carguacheros que están aquí presentes, que han luchado varios años para mejorar esta industria terrible, para ganar, que respeten la dignidad de todos los trabajos que tenemos en la industria, y sigamos en la lucha con ustedes. Gracias por ese día. Thank you, of course, Mr. Mayor. We really appreciate your support for the organizing work that courageous car wash workers are doing across the city to clean up this notorious industry. Not only has this industry seen rampant wage theft, but the rampant wage theft has persisted despite increasing efforts by the New York State Department of Labor, Federal Department of Labor, the Attorney General, private lawsuits and litigation. Continued wage theft persists, and we've seen workers suing and winning their wage theft cases only to see their employer go out of business, change names, and otherwise evade judgment. Thank you so much for adding the common sense, reasonable bond to this licensing, which will help to bring car washes under the city's purview for the first time. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
I'm Rabbi Michael Feinberg from the Greater New York Labor Religion Coalition. I'm here to add my amen to the advocates, to commend the council, the speaker, and you, Mr. Mayor, on this important bill. This bill sets the city on record in applying what hundreds of us from the faith community who've stood with the courageous workers know to be true, that every human being, every worker is created in the divine image, has dignity, has worth, has value, and this bill goes a long way to protecting that for workers in an industry that's rife with dangerous conditions, with exploitation, and with low wages. And we take this as an important victory, an important first step to expanding these kind of protections and the lifting up of every human being's dignity in every industry in this city. So we have a city that's got an economy that we call God's economy, that recognizes the worth and value of every human being. So for that, in this industry, we applaud your actions.
Okay, three more speakers. Stuart Markowitz of the Association of Car Wash Owners, Refugio Denicia, and Ernesto Salazar, who are both carwacheros.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Rabbi. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk. I'm going to go as fast as I can. I'm not really a great speaker, but I'll try to explain myself, okay? I've been in business, I don't even want to read this. I've been in business 30 years. I'm in the Brooklyn area. There's a lot of good people out there, and there's a lot of good car wash people. I have a lot of great employees, too. They're good people, and they're family. I consider my employees as family, too. And I try to treat people right the same way you should treat me. That's how I believe. Okay, and my door is always open, okay? If anybody needs to talk, I will talk with them. I respect them, and I listen. I have an ear out, and I listen. I'm going off my thing, but I want to talk sincere, because that's the way I am. And I understand it's a problem. You're right. You're absolutely, you guys, I agree, it's a problem. There are a lot of lousy operators out there, okay? But there are some good operators, too. And what is the answer? Yes, we do have to work together. I think 100%. But I think in working together, it would be great to work, with you, Mr. Mayor, Rabbi, with you also. I think it would be wonderful if we could all be on the same page and with the association, and we could weed out these bad operators, okay? Like I said, I've been in business for 30 years. I'm pissed off when I see, for instance, a car wash is washing for $7, $6. How can they do that? It costs, I'm being honest, off the record, it costs me over $10 to wash a car. How the hell how can I compete? Because of these guys, they're paying cash. You understand? They're not paying the proper taxes, FICA, uninsured, but I am. I'm doing it. My price, accordingly, I hope you all see it, you could see who the lousy operators are there, okay? You could, it's in black and white. And my suggestion is, and I went off the course, maybe we have to get a type of a committee to work together and to look at that and to see these people and then work together how to get rid of these people or tell them to comply. All right? I said what I had to say, and if you have any questions, my door is always open, and I'll be happy to talk to anybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Tengan todos muy buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Ernesto. Le damos gracias a Dios y al alcalde y todos los caguacheros que han tenido la lucha, el valor para luchar por sus derechos. Creo que hemos salido ya de un tiempo que vivíamos en la oscuridad. Gracias a esta ley ya no va a haber más robos de salario, ya va a haber más respeto, más dignidad para los trabajadores. Así que yo creo que este es un día maravilloso, un día que tenemos que celebrarlo con emoción, con alegría, porque hemos salido a la luz. Gracias a todos los que nos apoyaron, a la alcaldía que nos dio su apoyo y que creyó que también tenemos derechos como trabajadores en esta industria. Así que gracias a todos.
Buenas tardes a todos, mi nombre es Refugio. Yo quiero dar las gracias también al alcalde, a los concejales que nos echaron la mano para salir adelante, luchar con fuerza. ¡Carguacheros, sí se pudo!
Okay, we will now sign this bill into law. Down in front. Take it down. Here's one of them. 17, that's 17. You're still sure?
I'm very sure.
Okay. And it's law. Okay. Muchas gracias a todos. Okay. We're now going to go to another piece of legislation. Sir? Excuse me. Okay. Oh, he wants a photo. Okay. There you go. Okay. Okay. Yeah, you need a chant for this one.
Yes, this is the exciting one.
I had to be holding.
Then again, it's your first.
My first. Okay, here we go. We're going to be now discussing intros. 456A, 723A, 724A, 725A, 726A, and 729A, which aim to educate small businesses about rules and regulations and allows DCA, the Department of Consumer Affairs, to analyze fines issued to businesses. The sponsors are, here we go, 456A, sponsor is Councilmember Helen Rosenthal. 723A, Speaker Melissa Mark Viverito. 724A, Councilmember Margaret Chin. 725A, Councilmember Robert Cornegay Jr. 726A, Councilmember Rafael Espinal. 729A, Councilmember Vincent Gentili. As we know, small businesses are the backbone of our communities and of our economy. We know how hard small business owners work, and we know that they need all the time they can get to build their businesses. So the city is doing its part to support their success by making it easier to comply with city regulations. That's part of our Small Business First initiative. And these bills will complement that work, and they'll create designated advocates to help small business owners get the services they need, and education events to help businesses understand licensing, pricing, and other consumer protection laws. We'll also allow the city to do a better job of analyzing the fines given to businesses and improving the ways that we regulate businesses. I want to thank Speaker Melissa Mark Viverito and Small Business Services Commissioner Maria Torres Springer. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Consumer Affairs Commissioner Julie Menin.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Well, we are thrilled to be implementing and enforcing these small business bills. As the mayor said, it's been a top priority of the administration to make sure that we are always working to educate small businesses before ever fining them. By having these business education days, and this is something that DCA is deeply committed to, we will make sure to inform businesses throughout the city in language of choice about rules, regulations, responsibilities. And that is why, for example, with the paid sick leave bill, we have all of our materials in 26 different languages. So in terms of language access, in terms of business education, it's a deep priority for the administration, for DCA, so we are thrilled to be implementing this important legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, our Commissioner for the Office of Administrative Trials and Hearings, Fidel Del Valle.
The Office of Administrative Trials and Hearings, OATH, is where New York City agencies and people who get summonses from those city agencies come to get an impartial, neutral hearing to determine who's right and who's wrong. For too long, there has been a lot of mystery and mistrust as to what the process is in New York for somebody who gets a ticket or a summons. And part of that is because it's been shrouded in mystery. People don't understand how the system works, who's responsible for what, and so forth. This legislation is part of the process that we're engaged in to make it transparent and clear to people what the process is when they get a summons. Who's responsible for defending it, who's adjudicating it, that it's not the agency that issued them the summons, that they're getting a fair hearing and a neutral arbiter deciding what the case is like. This is fundamental to the American process. This is something that in the 7 months that I've been on this job, I have found that many, many people don't understand. And you don't have justice and equity and fairness unless everybody understands you're having justice, equity, and fairness, even if in fact you are having it. As any lawyers in the room will tell you that the appearance of injustice is just as bad as, in fact, the appearance of injustice, and this goes a long way to curing that. Thank you.
Well said, brother. Thank you. All right. And now the Director of the Mayor's Office of Operations, Mindy Tarlow. You can do it.
Thanks so much. I just want to say that at the Office of Operations, we do a lot of things behind the scenes to try to make our government more efficient and more equitable. And these bills that we're here to represent today do just that. They help make sure that businesses have their say through customer service surveys so that we understand the needs of the business community and we take all that information in at operations. And more importantly, one of these bills actually makes sure that inspections are done in the language that is the choice of the business, so that we make sure that all of our work is translated as it needs to be and interpreted as it needs to be, so we meet the needs of the very diverse business community that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Now the council members. First, Councilmember Helen Rosenthal.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor, and I'm not sure about which is my bill number, but the bill that is mine that's being signed into law today represents a major victory for OATH, the Office of Administrative Trials and Hearings, restaurateurs, and tenants throughout the city. The men and women of OATH are tireless, trying thousands of cases each month, and I thank them for their service. However, of the over 218,000 decisions that OATH rendered in 2014, over 73,000 of those cases were dismissed, which could potentially be a waste of time and money for New Yorkers and the city. Here are the two specific groups of constituents who have raised concerns. Restaurateurs in my district are frustrated when they get frivolous tickets, have to take a day off of work, head down to a hearing, and while their ticket is dismissed, they've lost a day of work. I've also heard stories from tenants who have called in violations that are valid violations. The Department of Buildings, an inspector goes out, a summons is issued, but the landlord brings a lawyer to their OATH hearing, and the lawyers, needless to say, find loopholes, or the landlords say that a repair has been made when it hasn't, and the landlords are basically get off the hook and either don't have to pay a fine at all or only pay a minor fine, and meanwhile, none of the necessary repairs have been made. This bill will bring to light the reasons violations are dismissed so that appropriate steps can be taken for a fair outcome. I'd like to thank Speaker Melissa Mark Viverito for her commitment to this package of bills, which focus on aiding small businesses in particular, and to David Seitzer from the central staff who works so hard on this. I'd also like to thank the mayor for his appreciation of the role of OATH and for taking the next step in signing this bill into law today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And now, Councilmember Margaret Chin.
Thank you, Mayor. As a council member, one of the most common issues that I see is small businesses who come into our district office because they're having trouble navigating government services, or they got a ticket for something they don't understand. This is all the more important for our immigrant entrepreneurs who may have limited English. We do have some great programs as small business services, but our small businesses don't always know what is available. Intro 724A seeks to address all these issues by creating small business advocates within the Department of Small Business Services to help them understand and comply with complex city rules and regulations and navigate various agencies. This bill will also enable these advocates to examine how city policies might unintentionally impact small businesses and develop recommendations to make our city more business friendly. I want to thank the mayor and the Department of Small Business Services for their work with us on this legislation, as well as our speaker and Councilmember Cornegie, the chair of the Small Business Committee, for sponsoring this legislation with me. And of course, I want to thank Central staff, Jeff Campagna, Laura Popa, and Matt Gallup for all their work on this bill. This and the other bills that you're signing, Mayor, today will help strengthen our city and its economy, and I'm proud to be part of this effort. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, Councilmember Vincent Gentili.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you for the A-beam podium step.
Good.
I'm feeling kind of tall here.
Part of history.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for signing this bill into law today. It really is a companion bill to that of Councilmember Rosenthal, because as she said, we see every year many of the Department of Consumer Affairs violations that are issued to small business owners are ultimately dismissed. And that causes business owners to take a day off, go down, lose money, to contest a ticket that ultimately is dismissed. That's not productive for anybody. It's not productive for the city. It's not productive for small businesses. So what this bill will do is focus on requiring the DCA to analyze the violations that are dismissed, and then issue a report, and based on that report, have DCA look at ways of limiting or reducing those types of violations that are issued against business owners. It's just a common sense bill that will help our small businesses. I want to thank our chairman of our small business committee, who's been very, very supportive of this. I'm looking forward for this being, not right away, but in the future, being a real tool to help small businesses.
Thank you very much. And now, Councilmember Robert Cornegie. He does not need a step at all.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Small business owners do incredibly valuable, incredibly difficult work, and that benefits the people they employ, the customers they serve, and our city as a whole. My goal as chair of the Committee on Small Business is to do all I can to make their jobs easier. Today's bills accomplish this goal by improving the ways that the city interacts with small businesses in many ways. Going forward, non-English speakers will have a fairer chance during inspections. The number of education events across the boroughs will be increased, and owners will be encouraged to give meaningful feedback, and there will be a clear entry point for business owners to share their concerns with the Department of Business Services, Small Business Services. Moreover, we'll have a better understanding of how business summonses are resolved by the Department of Consumer Affairs and Oath. As these mechanisms tell us more about what business owners need, we'll continue to do better to serve them. I'd like to thank Speaker Melissa Mark Viverito, Mayor Bill de Blasio, Tirza Nasser, Matt Carlin, Jeff Campagna, and my legislative and budget director, Dinah Shell Gross, which is here. Oh, there she is. I'd also like to thank all of the members who worked to sponsor and co-sponsor these bills for their vision and determination. In particular, Council members Chin, Espinal, Gentili, and Rosenthal. And I look forward to working with the small business service agencies on their implementation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councilman. Thank you for your leadership as chair of the Small Business Committee. I want to just conclude with a few words of Spanish before I sign this legislation. Acabo de firmar 8 leyes para, entre otras cosas, fortalecer nuestros esfuerzos para expandir oportunidades de empleo a personas con antecedentes penales, establecer por primera vez un sistema de licencias para que los negocios de lavado de autos cumplan con las normas ambientales y dar más información a los pequeños negocios para que entiendan mejor las reglas que deben cumplir. With that, let's sign these pieces of legislation. Yeah, let's figure it out. Okay, Helen Rosenthal, you're up.
All right.
Helen, how many do you need?
Oh, goodness gracious.
Goodness gracious.
Sign to have a pen? I think 2.
2.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much.
Yeah, there's one. We'll sign this one for the council speaker in absentia. Do I need any pen for this? Let me be on the one. Yes, I do need one. That's why he's got this big job. He's figured out the one.
If I said no, you would have said, I don't need any pens. How am I going to sign it?
What? I don't need a pen. All right, we'll send it back to her through you.
All right. No senior funding request this time.
That'd be different.
Oh, here we go.
Okay, start as the last one. You did succeed. We all succeeded. We all succeeded. Sheriff Carnegie, step forward. How many do you need? 4. 4 it is.
Go 5.
5 it is.
The job's not so easy.
Way up there. Way up there. You're very secure of yourself.
I am.
3.
That's the next agreement.
Right. 4, and this is the last one. Yes. 5 is holding. And that goes off. Now we'll sign for Councilmember Espinal. Does the one job call? For Councilmember Espinal?
Councilman, right here, anybody hasn't got one?
Yes, this is the moment. Commissioners, who's in on this
2
one?
plus
Andy in this?
2 plus 4.
2 plus 4 is 6. Going 6. Any other staff? 7. Anybody else? Any other staff? Going with 7. Tell me to change your mind. See? Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Great. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was quick on the draw there. All right, where's? Okay, I have 3 left. You still want 3? Step up. Still doing 3? Yep. I'm calling that a running thing.
It's not so easy, right? Be careful, you get in a lot of trouble for these numbers. That's right.
I'm behind you. Who else? Right. I have 1 left.
Anybody else?
1 left. Okay. What?
Right down there.
Okay, 1 for you. Who else? 1. Did you get 1?
I'm in trouble now.
John Paul, how many we got?
Just use them all.
4. Saba, what are you gonna do?
She's checking the
Saba,
phones.
see, Saba's like providing leadership. Thank you, Saba. Okay. 1 more for you. 2. 3. You got 1? You got 1. Oh, and 4. What?
Did you get 1?
This is like mass confusion. You didn't make it good. I think you're doing great. I'm just trying. I try to have as much fun as possible.
Well done. Hilarious.
That's right. I find working with John Paul hilarious all the time.
You guys need to come up with a chant or a song.
That's right. What's your
Kind of
song?
like the Harsh Heroes.
Shadows.
Thank you, sorry.
There you go. This is law. Right. Well done. Good day. And the hearing is adjourned. Well done, everyone. Well done. They go to Matt. I didn't get you. I didn't get you. Right.